Remember when you couldn't order a ride at the press of a button? Or get online without hearing this? Or get Domino's delivered to over 150,000 unexpected outdoor locations? Wait, what? Introducing Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get pizza delivered right to the beach, the quad, or the dog park. Not at home? Not a problem. Find a Domino's hotspot near you and get 2 medium 2-topping pizzas delivered for $5.99 each. 2-item minimum. Handmade pan pizzas will be extra asked for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary. Restrictions apply. Visit Domino's.com for details on Domino's hotspots.
Oh, we are getting ready for the second full weekend of football, and we are glad you're with us on a Friday morning. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio and ESPN News. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Mike Golic, Trey Wingo here, and delighted to be joined, as we will throughout the entire season, by our fine ESPN NFL analyst, Tedy Bruschi, in studio, giving us the straight talk. Brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. He's been doing it for a decade here now at ESPN. I still can't believe you've been here 10 years.
Yeah.
Can you believe you've been here 10 years?
It went by fast.
It flies, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It is amazing.
Fridays too. I mean, I love Fridays.
Oh,
because,
Fridays
I don't work I'm not the weekend crew or anything like that. So this is really the end of my week. And so football starts for me. I drive home. I'll see my son's high school football game.
That's the good stuff.
It's
how's he doing, by
football.
the way?
He's doing well.
Yeah.
He's doing
What year is he?
He's a junior.
Yeah.
Much more skilled than I was, actually. I was offensive guard, defensive tackle.
Right.
He's running back, linebacker, doing things.
Oh, he's a linebacker. I'm shocked by that. I'm shocked that the progeny of Tedy Bruschi plays linebacker.
2.0, huh?
Yeah.
He's a Bruschi 2.0.
Yeah, better version.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Updated.
Yeah, there you go.
Remodernized, rebooted.
That's a cool thing.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying Friday at practice was usually your favorite day of the week. Mine was always Saturday walkthrough because Friday when I was playing, we were playing under Buddy Ryan. If we had lost, we went pads,
right?
Or at least uppers.
Right.
Most of the time pads because you had to go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Now I know they can only really go once a week or 14 for the season. So sometimes I hated Friday practice because we'd still be in pads. The Saturday walkthrough was always the best one, especially when one of the rookies brought in donuts.
You get there in the morning, right?
Yeah.
For us, there was the Dunkin' Donuts.
Exactly.
Times and all that stuff. I was that rookie. Had to bring them once in a while too. Bring the whole that box of coffee.
Yes, exactly.
A box of coffee and a plastic bag of wine. It's a great time we live in America right now. All right, Teddy, let's get into it. First and foremost, week 2 is already underway with the Thursday night game. The Bengals, for the first time in franchise history, have scored 30 points in each of their first 2 games. What do we make of what we think of Cincinnati so far?
Well, I know how. I mean, I think I heard Drake Kirkpatrick saying that they're special to be 2.2-0 and things like that. But
pump the brakes.
But go ahead and let them. You got a little mini bye. You don't have nothing for the entire weekend.
Right.
I can understand where he's from. I mean, how he's feeling right there. We got the victory. I don't got to worry about anything, even another opponent, until probably next week. Yeah, we're pretty good. and they looked pretty good last night. I'll say offensively for Cincinnati, they looked different when Joe Mixon was either in or out.
Right.
It was just different what Joe was doing in terms of maybe a 3-yard run by Giovanni Bernard was a 4 or 5 or 6-yard run by Mixon because of his strength and explosion, and even the little checkdowns where the burst he has from 0 to 5 yards is impressive to me. Is something that I noticed, and so that type of efficiency and that running back, having him in there's a difference in that offense. AJ Green, you got to find him. I think that's how we would game plan him during the week is the first thing you would say is where is he? And that is he outside? Is he inside? And when he's inside, you got to find some way to double him because it's a lot easier to have those combinations to double him, but they just find a way to get him open. He had a spectacular night too.
He certainly did. Yeah. First time in his career he's ever had 2 touchdown catches in the first quarter of the game. He had 3 in the first half. So that's how it got started. And then I think one of the big marquee matchups this week is going to be the Patriots going down to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. Look, obviously there's a huge advantage at quarterback with Tom Brady over Blake Bortles, but how much does it help that listen, Gronk is going to be there. Remember, he missed most of the AFC Championship game after that concussion when he sort of fell on Barry Church's helmet coming out of the sky making that catch. He is going to be on the field, and it looks like Leonard Fournette may not be for Jacksonville.
I think that's a big thing for Jacksonville, too. If they don't have Fournette, like I just talked about Joe Mixon, a 6-yard run rather than a 3-yard run by Giovanni Bernard. Maybe that's the same. That's the physical presence. I don't know. As a defender, if I got that back there, your play action's going to be more effective too, because I'm going to respect that run a little bit more. And I heard, when you talked about the quarterbacks, Trey, Bortles and Brady, there's a big difference, but there's a big difference in terms of who they are. But Bortles, the best Blake Bortles I've seen in the past is when he's simple and he doesn't like what he sees. His number one receiver is not open and he takes off because he's like a running tight end, basically. I mean, he's 6'4", 236, however big he is, and he's athletic and he can run. And I remember that playoff run they had when he just take off and move those chains in the divisional round about, just 3rd and 10, he's running. 3rd and 8, he'd convert. That type of Blake Bortles, I think, is dangerous.
So, and then there's the fun we're having, because we're on this side of the microphone now, the Jalen Ramsey kind of smack talk that he has had.
Yeah.
Gronkowski had a very entertaining answer to a lot of that. But the stats do bear out that when Gronk is covered by a linebacker or safety, he catches the ball basically around 70% of the time, and by a cornerback, 50% of the time. Why?
I'm not sure. Maybe it's just the quarterback, too. When he sees that corner matchup, I mean, the placement of the ball, he's a little bit more careful. I'm not sure. Those numbers, depending on who are the cornerbacks.
Again, how much you want to buy into numbers, but that is a pretty big difference in disparity of a percentage against a cornerback.
You're probably going to have tighter coverage if it is a linebacker or a safety, I'll tell you that. Because, I mean, if Jalen's on him, he's got that length that a lot of defenders don't have, that it's always going to turn into a jump ball situation. And it's out of you and Gronkowski. So, I mean, that's where they would have success. I don't anticipate Jalen on him on an every down basis, but it's going to happen.
You're right.
And I respect the trash talk. I mean, they'll suppress it in New England locker rooms until Sunday. And when they get between the lines, I mean, I think it was before the AFC Championship game last year when Brady even sort of looked him up and said a few things to him. I mean,
he's done that in the past few times.
He does that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Every time, even with us in practice. I mean, it was trash talking. It's just you get in front of a mic, you try to have that. You don't want to give them any bulletin board material. I understand that. But I listen to Jalen Ramsey and I see Ty Law, the way he talked when the great cornerback that played for us, who was, I mean, we put him on Jerry Rice, Michael Irvin, and it didn't matter. And Ty would say whatever he wanted to say at times. So you almost disregard the corner with the big mouth on your defense because you almost got to have it.
Exactly. Listen, that's a position where you better have a lot of confidence and a short memory. So it probably works to his advantage. And you mentioned they'll avoid the trash talk. I want you to listen to Gronk here, working with the media, because I think people have this image of Gronk of what he is and what he isn't, and I think he's actually the exact opposite. So this is people in New England talking to Gronk about what Jalen Ramsey has said.
For sure. I mean, there's always motivation you're looking for. I mean, it does and it doesn't.
You think it's like
so it's tricky right there. Doesn't give you the answer you're looking for. That was a trick question. You're trying to get me to say something, right? All right. But it does and it doesn't. You know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah. Because, I mean, it motivates you. You're hearing that. Obviously there's something out there that he saw on film and stuff that I could probably get better at football in some certain categories. I mean, you don't always feel the best every single day when you're out on the field, so that's how he feels. That's how he feels.
I mean, I think people have this image of Gronk as this like sort of created in a lab idiot that just goes out there, me play football, me meathead. He's actually a lot smarter than people give him credit for.
Yeah, especially football smart, and he's learned how to deal with those things well. But I could sense the irritation in terms of saying maybe he sees something on film that I can improve at, and sure, I mean that all that irritation comes out on Sunday. It really does. And I remember Gronkowski throwing some Indianapolis Colt defender into a camera. When they started talking some trash on
Sunday night game, he threw him out of the club.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Out of the club.
No T-shirts in here, buddy. Just threw them out the club. Absolutely. So it boils. Yeah. It boils. And that's the way Bill likes it, because he'll build it up himself in terms of read you some quotes on Wednesday, talk to you about handling the media Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, night before the game. Maybe he'll just let it all out and then tell you what he really feels. He's done that before, and then you go to bed ready to play. So
along that line, and as you said, I completely agree. It's not like wherever Gronk goes, Jalen Ramsey is going to go. He's going to be matched up on him some, but I don't think a majority of the game. But they will be matched up some. So through all this, and you said it does get irritating, but in front of the microphone, you want to play it off. So when that matchup happens in the game, obviously Tom sees it, Gronk sees it. Do then you try and get it to him then? Do you try and let him win that battle? Or does Tom still say, I'm still going where the best coverage is going to be? Do you let it get that personal where you try to attack that and try and win that battle.
Do you ever try to prove the point?
Yes.
Prove the point through the week. And yes, you do. And I've been in those situations on those sidelines where, yes, you want to prove the point, but the score's usually we've been up by 21, 24 or something like that because
then it's
they
proving
don't,
point time.
they don't want to let the distraction affect the plan.
Right.
So the plan is if Gronkowski early on is Ramsey on you, well, if you get single coverage, I will throw it to you.
Right.
If Ramsey's outside wide, I'm not throwing to any receivers. I'm telling you right now, I'm coming inside. But you're up 20, you're up 21, which I don't know if it's going to get, or maybe if it's late in the quarter, the game, they're up 10 or something like that. Then it's like, let's prove this point.
Yes.
Gronk, go ahead and run. I'm going to throw it to you. And then when we get in the end zone,
We'll see what happens.
we'll spike it in their faces and say it and all that stuff. So that's when I think that would happen.
Yeah.
But they don't let that distract the plan. You just can't because intellectually, I mean, there's so many adjustments that they have. I can speak especially defensively, pre-snap and post-snap, that once it's over and it's been a successful play, then you almost feel like letting it out because that's when you can.
Tedy Bruschi here, a fine
Yes,
football
sir.
analyst. I think the only LeCap to ever play in the NFL. We've looked some research for that. We think you're the only one. Joining us on a Football Friday, talk about week 2 of the NFL. Listen, everybody was raving about Sam Darnold after the Monday night win in Detroit. Couldn't have got off to a worse start. First pass pick 6, then leads them to the 31 unanswered. But really, to me, Teddy, as I watched that game against Detroit, what impressed me most was that defense of the Jets. Now, I don't know how much of that was the Lions and how much of that were these young guns on defense, but I'm telling you, if I'm a Jets fan right now, I feel more comfortable on what I'm expecting out of that defense than I do out of Sam Darnold.
And how about a great game out of the linebacker, Darren Lee?
Oh, he was fantastic.
I know he had a couple
Backer tracker this week?
Possible.
There you go.
Possible.
I like that.
No.
But can't do it to a Jet.
Okay, he's been improving and actually struggling as a young linebacker as I've watched him, but that might have been his best game as a pro.
He was the best guy on the field,
in terms of an overall game. I'm even taking away those big plays. So to have, you always want the young up and coming teams. When it was Carolina, it was Cam and it was Luke Kuechly. You almost had it in Oakland if they would have kept Khalil Mack and then also Derek Carr, things like that. But if Darnold and Lee, those type of players, step up for that Jet team, I mean, defensively, I loved watching that young linebacker in the game he had. It was great for that entire organization.
Well, let's go to the other side of that and the amount of points the Jets put up against Detroit, now led by Matt Patricia, a guy you certainly know.
Right.
Patricia, before he was a D coordinator, he was actually on the offensive side of the ball, New England for a bit, and then a linebackers coach. I know, obviously.
Yeah, he was my coach.
As well, was your coach. So that's why I say you know him well. What was going on there, do you believe? I mean, his first, a defensive-minded coach giving up that many points, his first time as a head coach.
There is a funny thing that happened this week was that I was, of course, thinking about how they got blown out and how they could possibly do that. And then my son came up to me and said, do you remember last year's week 1 versus New England and what Kansas City did to them?
Yeah.
And how it was like, what's going on? The wheels are falling off, and they had free runners, and Kareem Hunt breaks through and all of that stuff, but they ended up settling down. And it was almost the same thing in terms of, does it take a young defense to grasp everything that complex defense is trying to teach? I think it does. I think it does, absolutely. So September being an extension of the preseason, probably for Matt Patricia and that young defense. I know Pasqualoni is defensive coordinator. Maybe they need to get on the same page, and maybe Patricia needs to have a little more input. I don't know the input sort of percentages there, but Kansas City last year, very similar to what happened to Detroit, and then they ended up right in the
That is interesting. And as far as the input there, I remember when Buddy Ryan was our coach and Jeff Fisher was the D coordinator, but Buddy Ryan was still running the defense, and Jeff was kind of learning underneath him a little bit. So that's a good point of where is that responsibility between D coordinator and head coach, who is a defensive-minded coach.
Yeah, and I just laugh at it's the NFL, and Lions fans get emotional and
Motor City Kitties, they're already calling themselves already after week 1.
It's a hard thing to go in and not only try to teach a culture change of hopefully winning not only to a team but to a fan base also, that 1 week really isn't going to tell your season.
It's 16 one-week seasons. That's what everybody needs to understand. Yeah. Tedy Bruschi is with us, and you guys understood that better than anyone. And you can understand maybe what's going on in Oakland better than anyone because people might forget before 2003, you guys released Lawyer Malloy, safety, one of the leaders on that defense.
I was very upset.
You were very. That was the most. Yeah. That was the most I've ever seen players upset at Bill in a Patriot tenure. You got smoked that first game, 31-0 in Buffalo, and then obviously things went on to work well because you did go on to win the Super Bowl that year. But how How cautious do they have to be in Oakland? Because they couldn't get any pressure on Jared Goff and the Rams after trading away Khalil Mack. They get outscored 23-0 in the second half. And now, Teddy, they go on the road to Denver. As long as Case Keenum isn't throwing 3 picks in a game, I think Denver's going to be a really tough out for a lot of people, especially at home. How critical is it for the Raiders to find a win quickly in September?
I think it's huge because going back to that story of us when Lawyer was traded,
you guys
and
were
I was
steaming.
furious. I mean, I was talking about being more loyal to my high school and my college than I was for the New England Patriots. That's how upset I was. But we went on the road after that game to Philadelphia. And then we got the victory there, and then sort of the cord was cut about all of our feelings. That's why I think it's so critical for them to get that win, because now I think John Gruden, with all of his guys supposedly that he's brought in, how well does he really know them? Because how well are the people that believe in what's going on there are going to step up and make plays for him and believe in what's going. So that's huge to look at, how they play in terms of, do they play like it is them versus the world mentality? Because that's the best feeling you can have in a locker room, that no one thinks we can do this. You know, people think we're against our head coach, but winning a game and then him showing my way does work, it's crucial for him to do that very soon.
They can't go 0-3 or 1-4. They can't do that, or it's going to be a real problem.
The highest rated game this week is going to be, without question, Giants at Dallas, for sure. So the 0-2 team out of this, how much trouble are we looking at for that team?
I don't want to say.
I know it's going to depend on how they play. So
I don't want to say it's catastrophic to start 0-2. I mean, a lot of teams have had success. I mean, you're going to take a lot of mental toughness to get that. Man, I really think those Cowboys need this win. I mean, if they were to go 0-2, home game, and also, I don't know, I think Jason Garrett as a head coach, I just don't know how good he'd be to rally in the troops. And I think that's what would need to happen if you're 0-2. Another coach, I know he's been there a while, but to get these guys believing that, okay, we do have some injuries, we do have some things going on, but still, okay, we're off and running, coach, we're with you. I think Dallas needs that mentality.
All right, Dak Prescott has thrown for under 200 yards, not under 300, under 200 yards in 8 of his last 11 games. Obviously, it was a problem. They generated almost no offense week 1 at Carolina. How much of that do you blame on a Dak? How much do you blame on a lack of playmaking wide receivers, or that running game, that offensive line not being what it was 2 years ago?
I want to focus specifically on the run game and realize, Ezekiel Elliott is just the player you just have to lean on constantly, because I think Dak's a better quarterback that way. I just don't think, if you're trying to figure out who you have with Dak, and great, he had a great rookie year, and now we think we're onto something, and now I think he's a guy that we can throw 30, 40 times a game. That's not who he is. I just don't think he's that type of quarterback. He's a solid quarterback that can win you a lot of football games if you do it the right way, but if you think he's going to be that Drew Brees, that next Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, your real weapon is the offensive line, Ezekiel Elliott, and you got to play off that constantly.
Yeah, the numbers back that up. The Cowboys are 12-2, winning at an 857 clip when Dak has fewer than 30 pass attempts in his starts over the last 2 seasons. They are 10-8 when he has 30 attempts or more in that start.
He feels more comfortable.
Yeah.
He just feels more comfortable, because you can feel as a defender. And I know you're going to throw it 40-plus times or over 35 times. I have a different mentality in terms of against the run game. I have to honor it more. If I don't honor it, I'm deeper in my stance as a linebacker. I'm helping on the slot receiver because I just don't respect you. And I think that it's just in you not to go away from it. So Dak can feel that also. So he's got to have that run game.
Right move or wrong move? Buffalo Bills going with the rookie Josh Allen.
It's the right move. Finally, you hope that Nathan Peterman could have botched this more time than a half for the kid, but that's about all. It's time. You got to look at your team and just step away from it emotionally and try to think, I got to keep my team believing that I'm going to do what's best for the team, and I got to take this kid out because the conclusion and the book can probably be closed based on what your team has seen Peterman do in regular season action.
2 halves, one this year, one last year.
I understand in the preseason. I saw him too. I'm like, hey, all right.
He deserved the start in the opening week, no doubt about it. Yeah.
Hopefully he could have bought Allen maybe 2-3 games a time. Unfortunately, it was barely 3 quarters.
Yeah.
But that's the way it is. You got to go with the kid.
All right, Teddy, most importantly, as we always know, you show up every day, you're trying to win what? Championships. Why they keep taking away your championships on NFL Live Tape-Off? Why they keep stealing them from you? Every week, Teddy puts together these amazing tapes. He wins the popular vote, and by some arbitrary panel or judge, they take it away and give it to somebody else.
I don't know. With Schefter, maybe it's some type of reward system that Woodson has with him. I mean, I even tried telling Schefter I'm reading his book, so it's like, hey, maybe I can get a vote or two here, buddy. Come on.
I'm just saying.
Good try.
You're out here winning championships, and they are taking them away from you, and that's not right.
It's okay.
It's not right.
Okay. If you like baloney, you'll like today's tape.
I'm all in on it. Well, we're big on baloney on this show.
Right.
Trust me.
I'm truly not going to feel too bad for Teddy. The guy's had a little bit of success. So
he's managed to win. I'm just saying.
It's an addiction. It's an addiction.
Yeah. He's addicted to winning. He's all about championships.
Remember when you couldn't order a ride at the press of a button? Or get online without hearing this? Or get Domino's delivered to over 150,000 unexpected outdoor locations? Wait, what? Introducing Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get pizza delivered right to the beach, the quad, or the dog park. Not at home? Not a problem. Find a Domino's hotspot near you and get 2 medium 2-topping pizzas delivered for $5.99 each. 2-item minimum. Handmade pan pizzas will be extra. Ask for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary. Restrictions apply. Visit Domino's.com for details on Domino's hotspots.
When it comes to hiring, you don't have time to waste. You need help getting to your short list of qualified candidates fast. That's why you need Indeed.com. Post a job in minutes, set up screener questions, then zero in on qualified candidates using an intuitive online dashboard. And when you need to hire fast, accelerate your results with sponsored jobs. New users can try for free at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms, conditions, and quality standards apply.
Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio, ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And it's time now for the best bets that we think are coming this weekend, right? So last week, our two guys, Stanford Steve from SportsCenter at night with Scott Van Pelt, and the Bear, Chris Felica from College Game Day, and a million other things, told you to bet on the Bengals and the Bucks.
Well, they hit it.
2 for 2. So here's who Stanford Steve and the Bear like this week.
Best bets of the week.
Stanford Steve alongside the Bear. Chris Felica, week 3 of the college football season is upon us. Bear, who do you have your eyes on with those red hot picks?
I got my eyes on UL Monroe getting 27 against Texas A&M. It is an ultimate rotten sandwich game for the Aggies. Last week, emotional, gut-wrenching loss at home to Clemson. Next week, they're on the road for their SEC opener against Alabama. This week, the old Warhawks come to town. They're a huge favorite. They'll win the game, but I'm going to take UL Monroe in that 27.
All right, I'm going to look at Texas as a 3-point favorite at home. Clay Helton 1-9 as an underdog against the spread. Give me the Texas Longhorns at home Saturday night. When we look at the pro slate, both of us come in red hot. Not that anybody's paying attention. No one's listening to this. But 1-0 each last week. Your NFL pick of the week, lock of the week. You got?
Watched every second of my Jets beat up on the Lions on Monday night. So I'm coming back with the Detroit Lions, getting 6 against San Francisco. They're not going to, both teams in need of a win. Lions are not going to play as bad as they did the other day. Give me the Lions plus the 6.
I'm going to have to take the Arizona Cardinals plus 12.5. It's the biggest spread on the board. They could not have looked worse in week 1. The Rams really turned it on in the second half on Monday night. Give me the worst team on the board, Arizona Cardinals.
Download and subscribe to Stanford Steve and the Bear on the ESPN app and Apple Podcasts. New episodes every Wednesday.
All right, first of all, I think we have to take umbrage with Stanford Steve. I don't know who's listening to this. Stanford Steve, everybody is. Yeah. We're listening. We're all in.
Right. Yeah.
Don't discount yourself, man. You were great last week. We're giving you this big form. Everybody's listening to Stanford Steve and the Bear.
I completely agree with that. Yeah. And of all the teams they mentioned, the one that they mentioned that made me think again, when is this team coming back? Yeah. That's Texas.
My God, right?
Tom Herman goes out there to try and save the day out there. And, they lose their opening weekend to Maryland. They win last week against Tulsa 28-21. Now they have USC and TCU back-to-back. There's got to be a whole lot of Texas. And by the way, I think A&M just overtook Texas as the making the most money program in college football. Texas has been printing money forever.
A long
and we
time.
we know the history of that, and they have certainly been on some hard times. But, man, you're waiting. Tom Herman was that name, that young assistant. Well, how successful. Let's bring him in. Let's turn this around. And certainly he still has some time, but I think people are really kind of saying, okay, it's got to be about that time. We got to get this thing going.
It's getting late early is the best way to say it. And again, as we're talking college football, so many of the games along the East Coast and the South, specifically the Southeast, are being affected by Hurricane Florence, which is coming across and making landfall, I think now, even as we speak. So definitely for those of you in that part of the area, we hope that if you're listening, you're safe. Because this thing, it's like Hurricane Harvey, Mike, a year ago. By the way, when this was coming out, I was just reminded last night what a great thing J.J. Watt was able to do last year by raising all that money for support for Hurricane Harvey. It's not the wind, because people are like, oh, it's a Category 2. That's not going to be as bad. We're talking 30 inches of rain.
Yeah, so you're talking
that rain's got to go somewhere.
Flash flooding. And
we're talking
what
9 feet of storm surge. I mean, that's a preposterous amount of water.
And I know, I'm sure a lot of people have been through them before, and you feel you have the situation in hand, but just do what you have to do to be safe. I mean, it's certainly, there's no machoism in trying to wait it out or to say I'm not leaving, or you got to be smart about everything. But again, you all know it better than me. I've never been caught in one like that to know it, but safety is obviously the most important thing. And you're right, the amount of how quickly that water can build up and start washing things away is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I know friends of mine in Houston that are still not back fully into their homes and down there because of what Harvey did. So again, as this goes through, and we're talking about college sports, and maybe if you're listening in an area that's being affected, we can be a little levity in a very serious situation for you. But we just hope all the best for all those being affected.
Get somewhere safe, stay somewhere safe until you need, and then we just hope and pray that there's not a ton of damage where you are.
No, exactly right.
Okay. Before you see some of the what's going on, some of the pictures already from there. It is
just massive amounts of water, and there's so many rivers and inlets that feed off that. It just where that water is going to go is going to be the biggest problem. So again, we understand, and we just hope that A, that you're okay, and B, we're trying to provide a little levity for your day.
Support for the Golic and Wingo Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying homes for a minute. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a whole lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about it. They're calling it the power buying process, and here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. You win either way. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Golic. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data record. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
We'll get into the bitterness a little bit between Ricky Rubio and Russell Westbrook. After Game 4, somebody's tune changed a little bit after what he said he was going to do before Game 4.
Are you coming on that novel story brewing there? It's your experience for the readers and twists and turns. Everybody learns the hero's journey isn't always a happy one.
I do love that one.
It is a good one.
I do love that one.
Sports Center brought to you by 1-800-Flowers.com. Nothing makes up for your football obsession like a fresh and beautiful bouquet from 1-800-Flowers.com. To order a dozen multicolored roses plus an extra bouquet in a vase for just $29.99, go to 1-800-Flowers.com. Click that radio icon and enter the code WINGO.
You all right?
I am.
Someone coming back on you
well,
there?
Wednesday, you guys had when I was out.
Yeah,
didn't you guys have the ice cream?
Ice
cream bars?
Brought in Haagen-Dazs. Brought in some peppermint bark.
I found them. There's still some left. The thing, and I just scarfed one in the last break.
Actually, I was impressed. You stopped at one.
Yeah,
I thought for sure this was a multiple road you're going down.
Break coming up in 8 minutes.
Yeah, well, let's see if we can keep you
between
engaged.
that break and the top of the hour. There'll be another one in my
we'll
gullet.
See if we can keep you engaged for 8 minutes before you get your next treat.
Yeah, my mind is already wandering, so you better get on to something good here.
Well, quick, Stanza will get in your head and talk about nerd ropes again, and then we'll get us completely derailed as we continue here. Presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And speaking of performance, to quote from the song in Hamilton one last time, Mets captain David Wright is going to return for the team's final homestand, making what is probably going to be his last appearance as a big leaguer. The Mets said that they plan to activate Wright when they return to Citi Field on September 25th against Atlanta. Wright is scheduled to start at third base on the second to last day of the season against Miami. And this was David Wright talking about that day that he knows is coming.
To my teammates, coaches, and staff, it's truly been an honor of a lifetime to take the field with you and serve as your captain. Some of my closest friendships have formed in that clubhouse, and we'll certainly be friends for life.
Yeah, we sort of played that Aaron Rodgers soundbite after the big Sunday night win and how he's there for my team. It's that same thing here, I mean, everybody talks about it because I'm fortunate enough to have done this for a long time when I work with a lot of former players. They don't miss playing as much as they do the locker room, that camaraderie, right? Because there's no place like a locker room or a dugout, wherever you want to call it in sports, whatever that is. That place where no matter where you come from, no matter what your background is, no matter what you believe in, you put that all aside for one common goal. And I think that you'll never find that in any other walk of, no matter what you do, you'll never be able to find something that replaces that as a former athlete.
Yeah. I mean, it's so well respected by everybody to be the captain and just what he gave. And a guy who's missed so many games, but so you look at that deal he signed in 2013, 8 years for $138 million. A lot of people are going to say, oh, man, was that a bad contract? Well, to me, there's a difference. And my son talked about it this morning on his show, and I completely agree. There is a deal that you sign and that person underperforms.
Right. Where
you say, boy, we really blew it on that one. There's a deal you sign and the person then starts getting injuries.
Correct.
That's something that they can't control.
Completely different.
And it wasn't like you signed him in 2013 coming off of, oh man, he's been nicked up. You look, he got into the bigs with the Mets in 2004, played 69 games. And then from 2005 to 2012, save for 1 year, all those other years were 144 to 160 games that he played. He was on the field. He was playing. Then he signed that big contract, and unfortunately, in 2013 he signed it, and his last game was May of 2016. You're talking back, neck, shoulder injuries where he was asked, can you keep going? And he just said basically the doctors don't think it's going to get any better, so he's going to have to walk away from the game. So there's no way you can sit there and say, man, that was a horrible deal they signed him to back then, based off the fact that he was available for them all the time and then started getting hurt after that. And like I said, so well respected in what he has done. Still owed a lot of money. Still owed $27 million over the next 2 years for this. But it's nice because he said he wants his daughter to see him play. So he's going to get on the field September 29th, back at third base. So it'll be a very cool way for him to close out his career and for the fans to let him know just how they feel about him as well.
Yeah, and again, we were talking about a guy who was once voted the face of baseball. I mean, he wasn't a good player, Mike. He was a great player. And now David Wright, for better or for worse, and for his sake, it's probably worse, he joins that list of what might have been. I mean, like, where is he on the list?
And still a long time. He played 13 years, in that big league uniform. So it's not like he got like 4 or 5 years in and then he was done.
Right. It makes you wonder how great he could have been and the things he could have done if he had stayed healthy, because there are always those guys. And the one that immediately comes to mind in the NFL, and he ended up going to the Hall of Fame, was Terrell Davis.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Terrell was still at the peak of his game when he was running for the Denver Broncos. And again, the way he got hurt was it's the freakiest way. He was hustling back after an interception to try and make a tackle, and an offensive lineman was also hustling back and sort of clipped him, and that's what blew out his knee.
Yeah.
There's a list of guys. Grant Hill, the same way, who was just induced in the Basketball Hall of Fame.
But so
many guys robbed by injuries.
I even look at guys before they even got to show they were great, like a Greg Oden.
Yep.
Greg Oden, the top pick in the draft, the big center from Ohio State, and just right off the bat, lower body injuries that just took his career away. So at least some of these players, you got to see their greatness for a little bit, but it just wasn't sustained over a number of years because of injuries. But it's guys like that came in with so much hype and that got injured right away, and they never got to even see any of their fruits of their labor at all.
Right, and that's why when we see these careers, these longevities, what LeBron is doing in the NBA, what Brady is doing,
Jerry
in the
Rice
NFL,
had done,
Jerry Rice, just appreciate it, man. Because Joe Thomas, for crying out loud, never missed a snap. I mean, again, a broken shoelace could have ended that, and it took his arm basically to fall off with that bicep tear.
And as far as injury, and even I've heard Jerry Rice admit there's luck involved.
Of course
there is luck involved in having that longevity and not getting that major injury, because it is just one bad step, one bad hit, one freaky play, and all of a sudden you're rehabbing a major injury that can affect you on down the road. So while preparation is huge, putting your body in the best position possible to sustain anything like that, and then there is luck in not having to go through that or having anything like that happen. You're like I said, I'm not saying it's all luck. I understand the work involved, but there's no doubt it's part of it.
Look, in any streak, there's going to be something that
Cal
Ripken. Just going to go your way.
Yeah, that's exactly
they're
right.
just going to go your way. You can say, I prepared for this and I prepared for that.
Yeah.
No, anything that involves a lengthy amount of time in a physical contact or collision sport in football, contact sport in basketball, there's an element of luck that goes into it. You can have all the skill in the world.
You can.
Things are going to have to bounce your way. And by the way, speaking of luck, like he said, he's still owed $27 million.
Yeah, $27 million.
Nothing will ever top the Bobby Bonilla contract.
Yep.
Again, Bobby Bonilla, I think, stopped playing for the Mets in the early 90s or maybe mid 90s. He's going to collect a check for $1.193.248, almost $1.2 million.
Yeah, go ahead and round that up.
$1.2 million from the New York Mets every July 1st until 2035.
Yeah.
Until 2035.
Good way to structure a deal.
That's not luck. That's skill.
Yeah.
That's smarts on Bobby Bonilla to take that deferred money paid out. It's like that line from The Jerk where Steve Martin's having to write all those checks. Yeah. They write that check every year to Bobby Bonilla until 2035. All right, coming up in the next hour on Golic and Wingo, a 7-time Pro Bowler did something for the first time last night in his career, and how much does that bode well for what his team may be doing going forward? We'll get to all of that, plus a lot of college football when we come back. Stay with us.
Remember when you couldn't order a ride at the press of a button? Or get online without hearing this? Or get Domino's delivered to over 150,000 unexpected outdoor locations? Wait, what? Introducing Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get pizza delivered right to the beach, the quad, or the dog park. Not at home? Not a problem. Find a Domino's hotspot near you and get 2 medium 2-topping pizzas delivered for $5.99 each. 2-item minimum. Handmade pan pizzas will be extra asked for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary. Restrictions apply. Visit Domino's.com for details on Domino's hotspots. Remember when you couldn't order a ride at the press of a button? Or get online without hearing this? Or get Domino's delivered to over 150,000 unexpected outdoor locations? Wait, what? Introducing Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get pizza delivered right to the beach, the quad, or the dog park. Not at home? Not a problem. Find a Domino's hotspot near you and get 2 medium 2-topping pizzas delivered for $5.99 each. 2-item minimum. Handmade pan pizzas will be extra asked for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary. Restrictions apply. Visit Domino's.com for details on Domino's Hotspots.
Till I collapse, which I may do after this show. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, the song that motivated the entire Golic family.
There you go.
Here it was. This was the one, right? This was the one. Wasn't this the one?
It was Lose Yourself by Eminem.
Lose Yourself.
I have no clue what you were talking about.
I wasn't sure if this was Lose Yourself or this one.
No, it wasn't that one, whatever it was.
That was Till I Collapse. You don't know that one?
I know it had nothing to do with our family or anything.
But you knew Till I Collapse.
Yes, I know it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Glad you're with us.
Yeah, okay.
Football Friday.
Good one.
Let's do this. Yeah. Let's get us back on track. We got a lot to get to. We'll make some of our predictions for some of the bigger games in Week 2 of the NFL coming up in just a little bit. We have some college football to discuss.
Yes, we do.
As we're going to be joined by Gary Patterson, TCU head coach, in just a few. But before we get to any of that, let's do what's trending. And let's start with Andy Dalton, trending in the right direction. Threw 4 touchdown passes in the first half, Mike, 3 to Adriel Jeremiah Green, as the Bengals beat the Ravens 34-23. Mike, I'm stunned by this number. It's the first time in Bengals franchise history they've scored 30 points or more in each of their first 2 games of the season.
And if you go 34 or more in those first 2 games, there's a 75% chance you'll make it to the Super Bowl.
There you go, Bengals.
Do you think Bengal fans are already talking about that stat this morning? And their team has looked good, but we have seen them look good in the regular season before. We know the issue is the postseason. We've talked about the difference of these 2 teams is the new weapons Baltimore got at receiver, and the same weapons basically Cincinnati has, and really one of the big weapons they're hoping can come back for him is going to be Tyler Eifert. Had a couple catches last night, 4 in week 1.
In and out of the lineup.
But, in and out of the line, nothing that danger in the red zone like he was a couple of years ago before the injury. So if they can work themselves back to that, plus with A.J. Green, what Joe Mixon brings him, though, he was a little nick last night, went out, but did come back in. You got to like on offense, defensively, 4 sacks, getting pressure on the quarterback. So they're a very impressive team right now. We've said who may challenge Pittsburgh, and we're not really sure what Pittsburgh is right now.
Correct.
We do think they're the best team in the North, but obviously we have to give it more time. But Cincinnati, with that offensive firepower, looking good.
Yeah, and listen, the reason we make that joke about the Super Bowl, they scored 34 points in each of their first 2 games. Over the last 10 seasons, they are the 5th team to pull that off. 3 of the previous 4 went on to play in the Super Bowl.
There's your
year.
75%.
So congratulations. Now, that being said, for a Bengal fan base who is all too familiar with the fact that they haven't won a playoff game since Bo Jackson was in the league, they're probably not diving all in on the Super Bowl train yet. In fact, I think the last team they beat was a team that no longer exists, a franchise, which would be the Houston Oilers.
There you go.
So I think they're going to probably pump the brakes on the Super Bowl talk, but listen, you're 2-0, your offense is clicking, and you know that defense is going to be good because of what you have there. You got to be feeling pretty good about yourself.
I would say so.
Someone else that's feeling pretty good about himself is Washington's running back Adrian Peterson. He's 33 years old, in his 10th season in the NFL. He says he wants to play 3 or 4 more years, saying, of course I plan on playing 3 to 4 more years. I plan on playing those years at a high level. The Washington Redskins host the Colts this on Sunday. He says he wants to be the best running back ever.
Yes, he does. And right now he's sitting 10th out of the top 25 rushers in the NFL. There are 2 that are current. One is number 10, Adrian Peterson. The other one gets no love, and he's number 5. Yeah. That's Frank Gore.
Yeah,
who's still playing, by the way.
A few yards short of being 4th all time.
Exactly right. Just right on the heels of Curtis Martin. Adrian Peterson, you're talking if he does play 4 more years, including this year, you think it'd be another 3,000 to 4,000 yards. Again, remember, to get 1,000 yards in the NFL today in 16 games is 62 yards a game.
Exactly.
Still going to be difficult for him to do. I completely understand that. But you move up the ranks pretty quickly. You start compiling some numbers over the next 3 or 4 years. But again, let's see where Frank Gore ends up. He's active as well, and he is sitting at number 5, about to be number 4.
Well, this is an interesting question when you look at Frank Gore. It's sort of the argument you make in baseball if a guy stays around long enough and gets a bunch of hits. Is he a compiler? Is he Hall of Famer? To me, that's an easy label to do in baseball. I don't think you can be a compiler in football because one of the skill sets is the biggest skill set is staying available,
yes.
Right? So to me, if you are available to be a compiler, I think that puts you in the Hall of Fame discussion because it's a very rare thing. Longevity is the hardest thing to do in any sport. It is the hardest thing to do in football. So if you can be productive over a long period of time, I think by the nature of the sport, that makes you a Hall of Famer, does it not?
Frank Gore sitting at 35 years old down in Miami now. In the first week, had 9 carries for 61 yards. A little under 7 yards a carry.
Why didn't he get more carries?
5 years old. So, you know what? Adrian Peterson, understand. We'll see. He looked really good in week 1 against Washington, but let's also remember the both of them. Let's make sure we mention Frank Gore, who's 5 spots ahead of him on the all-time list right now.
Let me ask you this then, because Adrian Peterson says he wants to be the best running back ever. What would it take for you to consider Adrian Peterson being the best running back ever? Would it be passing Emmitt Smith's record? Because I don't think anybody's touching that one. What do you think it would be that you could say, yeah, he's the best of all time?
By the way,
he do?
I think my quick math, I looked at the numbers where he is 5,983 yards short of Emmitt Smith. Yeah, so he'd have to play a while longer.
Listen,
it's my understanding that there would be no math.
I am amazed that you can fire that off.
I don't think Adrian Peterson is going to go down as the greatest running back of all time. And I understand that's what he wants to be and considered. He's going to go down as one of the great runners of all time. There is zero doubt about that. But I don't think he's going to go down as the greatest runner of all time.
Yeah, I don't know what he could do. You know what I mean? People are going to say
passing Emmitt would help.
Yeah, people are going to say Walter Payton. They're going to say Jim Brown.
Yeah.
A lot of people would still say O.J. Simpson.
It'd be a lot for me to go past Jim Brown and Walter Payton.
Yeah,
quite honestly.
I agree. And then the Emmitt Smith people will say, well, nobody ran for more.
Right,
And that's what you do
true.
as a running back.
And let me tell you, the running back I played against most in my career was Emmitt Smith, one of the toughest runners I have ever gone against in my life.
All right, well, let me ask you another question here, because a lot of people say it was always, and look, we get it, the Great Wall. They did an NFL network special on the offensive line of the Dallas Cowboys. You don't do specials on offensive lines.
Right.
It doesn't exist. How much do you think that was that offensive line, and how much do you think Emmitt Smith being a great runner?
Well, again, I think a lot of it is availability. I mean, to run the ball and get hit as many times. Here's the thing. You can gain yards, but what are you doing even if you gain 2 yards or 5 yards? What's happening after each run?
Yeah.
You're getting hit.
Exactly.
You're getting hit, so you're still getting hit every time you carry the ball. And we know this guy played with the separated shoulder. You play with other injuries. A lot of guys have done that, but availability is one of the best abilities out there, and he was able to do that. So, yes, it has to go into it. That helped. We always talk about where a lot of people think of Al Toon was in the position of Jerry Rice.
The wide receiver for the Jets. Yeah.
Would have been one of the great ones as well. So, you can put that into it in some cases as well. But Emmitt Smith, man, he was a tough runner to bring down.
He was, and he's done the one thing that nobody has ever done, and I don't think anyone will ever do again. 11 straight seasons with at least 1,000 yards rushing. 11 straight. And by the way, on either end of that, his rookie year, he had 937, and the year after his last 1,000-yard season, he got 975. So he was really like 60 yards away from doing it 13 straight seasons.
It's impressive what he did. It's impressive what Frank Gore is still doing. Impressive what Adrian Peterson is still doing. No doubt about it.
And it's also impressive what our next guest has done at his university and building TCU into a consistent winner in football. So we are delighted to be joined now on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line by TCU head coach Gary Patterson. He's brought to you by Goodyear. When you put in the hours, the reps, and the heart, nothing can keep you from being blimp-worthy. Goodyear, more driven. Coach, thanks for being with us this morning. A huge showdown for you guys as you welcome in on a pseudo home game for you. It's not on campus, but it's at AT&T Stadium as TCU plays Ohio State. What does this game mean for you guys this week?
Well, it's a third game. Every year you're trying to, the ultimate goal is to win a conference championship, but more importantly, get into a playoff. That's why, you schedule at Ohio State so that you have a game that if you can win it, then, it elevates you in the computer rankings and all the other things that go into it, opportunity to be those last four teams. So, this is why we're here where we're at, and we're excited about it.
We always talk about, Coach, one of the differences of college and pro is those preseason games. In college, you don't get it. So this is your third game, though. So where do you put this team right now? A couple of wins against Southern and SMU before you take on Ohio State. So where do you evaluate this team now?
Well, I think, number one, we were a little bit beat up. I think we're a little bit behind going into the season, but I think these guys are caught up. We played better on both sides of the ball in the SMU game than what we did in the Southern game starting off, being a 1AA school, so you really didn't see much. But, these guys have been in big games before, a lot of these guys, so they're excited about it. I think it's one of those things that you watch on film that Ohio State's playing very well right now, have some talented guys. But, TCU's been in this position 1,000 times where you're the underdog and you do the things you need to do. And, that's kind of where we've got them where we want them.
You got him in Texas, that's for sure. TCU head coach Gary Patterson with us. And for those that may not know, this matchup between TCU and Ohio State has interesting origins. In 2010, TCU, with Gary Patterson as their head coach and Andy Dalton as their quarterback, went through an undefeated season, went to the Rose Bowl that year, and Gordon Gee, then the president of Ohio State University, said something saying basically, quote, I do know, having been both the Southeastern Conference president and a Big Ten president, that it's like the murderer's row every week for these schools, Guy declared. We do not play Little Sisters of the Poor. We play very fine schools on any given day, referring to the schedule that you, Gary, and your team may have played that year in 2010. And really, it was from that remark that sort of got this matchup going, did it not?
Well, yeah, everybody always has an opinion. I think I started in 5th place for my wife. So, we've always started behind the 8 ball. I mean, it's, if you listen to everything everybody had to say, you might as well just stay in your home and lock the door and turn off the lights because you don't have a chance. So, all you can do is get up in the morning, go prove people wrong. And, in the 21 years we've been at TCU, that's what we've been trying to do. And, win or lose, I think we've elevated ourselves to where we want to be. We've won 40 games in the last 4 years in the Big 12. And we've got to go try to win one more like that, to have a great season. So, that's our kids are excited about it. They've been thinking about it for a while, and here we go.
I mean, none of those kids on that team are going to be on this team, but will you bring this up as a little pep talk before the game begins?
Oh no, I don't need to bring up. It's bottom line is you're supposed to get up for the games. You're supposed to win, and the big games take care of themselves. I think everybody knows on our team that they're playing Ohio State and how good a football team that they are, and we always try to match our level of ability with the next team that we always play. And so, last year we played in the championship game against Oklahoma. They had a really good football team. We came up short, and so we're trying to get back to that position again. So Ohio State's the next person in line, and they're going to be a hard challenge because I think they're playing very well. I think Nick Bosa said that they think this one maybe one of their best Ohio State teams, and so. We're gonna put our abilities up against them and see how we show.
Talking to Gary Patterson, TCU head coach, 2-time AP Coach of the Year, and that's I think I guess that's why I'm going to ask the frustration for you. Your guys is a top program. I mean, you've proven that for a number of years. Yet at times it doesn't feel like you guys are perceived that way. Is that frustrating to you?
Well, yeah. If you look at it, I think there's a stat in the last 3 out of the last 4 years, the 5 teams that have ended, only 5 teams have ended up in the top 10 rankings. And you talk about Ohio State, Alabama, TCU is one of those groups, Oklahoma. And so when you know that you're one of those, Clemson, if you're one of those teams that you've done that, then bottom line is somebody's paying attention. But over the years. You've got to find out that you have to do it. That's why we've just kept our head down and keep proving people wrong. I think that's always been our motto of being able to do that. And the people that play us, coaches in the profession, they understand how hard we play and how we do things. And I don't think we've ever, as I told somebody at media day, and they said about, well, we've made 2-star and 3-star guys be better players. I said I always told them that was their rankings. We've always felt like the Jerry Hugheses, the Andy Daltons, stat out the other day that we've got the most offensive linemen, offensive tackles in the NFL with 6, 9 total. And so, everybody says we're even a defensive group, but here you're talking about the kind of offensive linemen that we have. So it's like anything you do, you always have to get up and make yourself better and get people to pay attention every day. There's only one way that you can pay the rent is to do it every day and not just think that once you do it one time, you're not going to get it done another. So that hasn't changed. That attitude about how we approach things is going to be always the same, and it gives us an opportunity every week to win.
So let's look at the game, the opportunity to win this week. Number 4, Ohio State playing number 15, TCU. Let's look at that game, and from your team's perspective, what are the things that you can't afford to do, and on the negative side, and can on the positive side, to make sure you leave this game with a win?
Well, the bottom line is you got to start fast. If you look in the first 2 ball games Ohio State's played, they've had people down by 28 points by the second quarter, and so you got to start faster. We can't have an Alamo Bowl type situation where you're trying to come back in both games, where you're trying to come back from 20 points plus. So, we've got to start fast. You've got to be able to move the football, score some points. And defensively, obviously, you've got to handle the physicalness of Ohio State. And, I think that one of the things that makes them a lot better on offense is they're really throwing the ball better with this football team with Haskins. So we've got to be able to come out, You got to be able to try to get takeaways, which is one of the ways you can slow people down, because I think their third down percentage is like 73% right now. Yeah. So how do you do that? But I kind of look at it the same way I looked at playing Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl. I think they were averaging like 70 points a game the last 6 games of the season in the Big Ten when we played them in the Rose Bowl. And so I think you got to get ready and understand that that's why you play the games. And any given day, anybody can beat anybody. So how do you do that?
Gary Patterson with us, TCU head coach. Yeah, 73% completion conversion on third down. Yeah, that would be a really bad stat for opposing defenses. So absolutely, that one needs to get changed around. We talked a little bit about how this thing got started, Gary, with that Little Sisters of the Poor comment. But this is the first time Ohio State and TCU have played since 1973. How do you deal with someone, an opponent like that you really don't see a lot of?
Well, number one, I highly respect from the football side. Obviously, Coach Myers has done a great job there. Greg Schiano, you have Coach Day, all of those guys. They've got 2 or 3 or 4 coaches that could be head coaches on their staff, and so you understand the kind of abilities their players have, and doing the things that they do. And so I think first off, you have a respect factor. And the other part is that I really respect the Ohio State fan base. They're passionate about what they do. They've been doing it a long time. I think they are one of those groups that you like to watch because they love their team. And anytime you play anybody like that, we played LSU here in the AT&T Stadium before a couple years back. Anytime you play one of those kind of fan bases, you have to embrace the moment, because it's what college football is all about. That's why you're playing the game. It's one of those things, you respect your opponent, but you don't fear your opponent, and you get ready to go. And that's what makes this a big ball game. That's why it's a 7:00 game. That's why you have the A team from ESPN doing it, and that's what you like to play the game. Everybody wants to get to a point. That's what young kids want to do. They want to get to a point where they play in one of these kind of games, and so you have to give them the opportunity to be able to do that. And so it's even for coaches. Coaches love getting ready for big ball games too. It's what makes it fun. All the work that you put in, it makes it all worth it.
So along those lines, we're talking to Gary Patterson, TCU head coach, taking on Ohio State. You have a quarterback in Sean Robinson. It's his third game as a starter after replacing Kenny Hill last year, a sophomore. So in your coaching, the way you coach, do you talk with Sean about the big game and ways to deal with it, or do you just kind of let him, go through the week how he naturally goes through the week, or is there more emphasis put on it with you?
No, I think you don't need to tell him how important it is. I think the biggest thing for Sean is to let the offense work for him. It's not trying to do too much himself. That's when quarterbacks get in trouble. He started a game for us in Lubbock against Texas Tech last year, and the thing about Sean is he's an ultimate team person. He just wants to win. How do we do that? How do we get to that point? And I think that's what makes him special. He's one of those guys that you love being around, not just as a football player, but just as a person. And so when you have a guy that that's going to put himself in that position, but we've tried to understand. It's kind of like the saying out there is, you don't rise to the occasion, you sink to the level of training. Hopefully, what we've done is, in his younger years, we've harden him enough that he can come into this, because he's going to have a big, really good front that's going to be rushing him. They're very talented at Ohio State in their front four, and so we understand that they're going to be a group that you got to be able to handle. And some ways you handle that is with escapability, and he's one of those guys that has that kind of ability. He can get out of people's way because of his feet.
Well, listen, it's one of the matchups we're really looking forward to watching this weekend. TCU sort of hosting Ohio State at AT&T Stadium. Hey, Gary, thanks for being with us this morning. Best of luck this weekend.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Gary Patterson, head coach at TCU.
Such a big thing. Sean Robinson can move. He
Absolutely.
moves well, and that rush, led by the younger Bosa. Yeah. Joey's brother is going to be one of the top picks in the draft coming out this year. So Sean may have to be on be able to hightail it a bit, but he can. So that's going to make that part of it very interesting.
Absolutely. And Gary's right. They have built a consistent winning program.
They have. And I'm telling you, for a really one of the better programs, I guarantee you he feels they don't get the respect nationally that they deserve. So we'll see. Again, a quarterback that can move. They had 4 linemen that were in camps last year in the NFL, so replacing some of those guys. So, let's see where those battles go.
A lot of respect can be earned Saturday. That's for sure.
When it comes to hiring, you don't have time to waste. You need help getting to your short list of qualified candidates fast. That's why you need Indeed.com. Post a job in minutes, set up screener questions, then zero in on qualified candidates using an intuitive online dashboard. And when you need to hire fast, accelerate your results with sponsored jobs. New users can try for free at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms, conditions, and quality standards apply.
Support for the Golic and Wingo Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying homes for a minute. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a whole lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about it. They're calling it the power buying process, and here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. You win either way. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Golic. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data record. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS ConsumerAccess.org number 3030.
We get excited about football, and because we're football guys and we like it. I love how much our next guest is amped for the sport that he spent his whole life doing, and he brings the thunder and that left hook every time he talks about boxing. It's Golic and Wingo, presented by Progressive Insurance. So with that in mind, the huge fight, the rematch is coming up this weekend in Vegas. Canelo Alvarez against Triple G. So of course we got to talk to our guy, Tedy Atlas, our ESPN boxing analyst. Teddy, there's been a few fights over the last couple of years that have been more hype than anything else, but this one is a really, really good fight. How much are you looking forward to seeing Canelo and Triple G back in the ring?
Well, enough to get up at 6 a.m. to talk to you guys, so that's pretty good. and I like you guys very much, so that's part of it too. So, although it's 6:30 right now where I am. But listen, there's so many elements floating around in this fight. The first fight, a funny thing happened on the way to the weigh-in. The smaller guy, Canelo, welterweight, junior middleweight, moving up to a natural middleweight to fight Golovkin, the bigger guy. He showed up at the weigh-in. He looked like the bigger guy, And then what happens? A couple months later, 2 suspensions for PEDs later. Maybe we got the answer. That he says there was tainted beef and all that stuff in Mexico. But I would say that with all the money he makes, 2 times that happened, you know what, pal, go buy yourself a case of Kobe beef. You know what I mean? So that's not flying with me. So you go and you get the smaller guy, looks like the bigger guy the first time. Now, all of a sudden, presto, what happens? The second time, now, the weigh-in's going to be today, but we've seen Canelo already. The Canelo shows up, and guess what? Transformation. He looks like this smaller guy. He's not on that stuff anymore. And a lot of people don't like the truth to be spoken that straight. But how else are you going to say it? I mean, the eye test tells you. The drug test tells you. So now he's the smaller guy. So it's really interesting with all those elements in there, how you're going to handicap this fight, how you're going to figure this fight out. And then you got the other side where you have Golovkin, who's the favorite in this fight. He was the favorite the first time. I thought he won the first time. I thought he got robbed. You have him a year older. He's 36 years old. And I always say, I don't judge fighters chronologically. I judge them by the amount of punches, by the amount of tough fights, the punishment they've taken. And when you're 36 years old and you've had 400 amateur fights, and that's how many fights he got. He was a silver medalist. 400 amateur fights for Golovkin, and you've had, 36, 37 pro fights. The age starts to show. And I thought he was slipping already. So now you got a year later, you got all these things buzzing around, and it makes for, if nothing else, it makes for an interesting match because also on both sides, listen, I hate to use this because it becomes, to too much of a cliche for people and too much of sort of something to lean on for a lot of media people out there, especially out here, that want to get some buzz going. But in this case, there's a little bit of truth to it. You have extra motivation for both guys, and you don't need. And the reason why I say I don't like to use that, it's a lot of bullcrap sometimes, is because hey, you don't need. Mike didn't need any more motivation going out on a football field. He knew what that meant. He understood what was involved. He understood his career could end that day. He understood what he was doing it for and how many years he was doing it and how many high school proms or whatever else he gave up while he was at football practice. Well, these football players, these base boxers, they understand the same damn thing. So they don't really need extra motivation. When you're getting into a ring with a guy and you could get out of the ring with less of yourself than you went in the ring, you don't really need extra motivation. But on that side of it, you have Golovkin, who got robbed the first time, and finds out that he's fighting a guy who was on PEDs. And then most people think that he's the guy who's got the extra motivation. You know what I think? I think Canelo's the guy because he comes from a place that grows legends in the Mexican fighters. They become legends, those guys. They have some of the greatest fight fans in the world. Now, they have two sports. They have soccer and they have boxing. And they really love, they adore their fighters, the Oliveras, the Sanchez's, the Chavez's, the Moraleses, the Barreras, all those guys. Those are legends. But they're legends for a reason. They did it the right way. These are hard-working people, just like we have in our country. These are hard-working people that go out there and they put their money. They don't make a lot of money. They put it down to back these guys, and they make these guys their heroes, and they don't like them to be tainted. They want them to be real. They want them to be honest. They want them to be the fighters that they back. And you know what? He's not right now. A lot of the Mexican fans don't feel that way about him. I've talked to a lot of them. They say, no, we don't like him so much. They're going to be out there. There's going to be plenty of them out there. There's going to be plenty that is the way I just finished telling you. And now it's a chance for him to get redemption with those fans. That's something that's real.
All right, we're talking to Tedy Atlas live from Vegas on the
By the way, we
Zone.
love your passion,
Yeah,
Tedy. I just want you to know that.
Well, let's keep that going now. Let's go in the ring because I feel the same way that Triple G got robbed in the first one. But for each fighter, and start with whoever you want, what does that fighter have to do different in this fight that they did in the last fight?
I'm going to start with, and that's the right question. I'm going to start with the naturally bigger guy. And this time, again, he is the bigger guy. I'm going to start with Golovkin, the favorite. You know what? He had Canelo pinned on the ropes several times in that fight. And guess what he did? He let him off the ropes. He let him off the hook. Hey, listen, a lot of people out there that are astute, they're going to say, hey, Tedy was afraid of getting counted. Guess what? Bull crap. He wasn't afraid of getting counted early on because the guy was trying to survive early on. He was being too respectful. He was being too careful. Maybe that kind of huge fight, maybe it made him think a little too much too. But he was not staying in it. There's no better way to impose your physicality on a smaller guy than to stay close and go to the body. He didn't go to the body the way he should have, Golovkin that is, yet Canelo actually went to the body more. So this time, you are the bigger guy. When you get inside, stay inside. Do not go back outside and let him off the hook. If you have to, step to the side so you avoid any counters. But don't go back outside. And now for Canelo, well, guess what, pal? You're the smaller guy. You better use the advantages. Don't sit there and moan and groan about, oh, I lost some of my muscle and I'm not as big. Hey, you didn't win the first time. Maybe you'll win by being you. And be you. Be the faster guy. Be the smarter guy. Be the more sophisticated guy. Because you are more diverse. As much as Golovkin's terrific and he's fan-friendly and everybody loves him, you know what? He's one-dimensional. So use your multi-dimensions. Counterpunch. Turn him. Move around him. Keep him more balanced. He can't be the bigger guy if you don't let him get set. He can't be the more powerful guy if you don't let him get set. And that's it.
So, Tedy, real quickly, because we're up against the clock here, who do you think's walking out of this the ring with a win Saturday?
You know what? Sometimes you got to look in the mirror, and Do you remember that Rocky movie, the one where Mickey told Rocky, and that's fiction and all that, but sometimes it becomes real. Where Rocky, when he told Rocky he didn't want to fight, and then he said, "But I beat all those guys," and he said, "They were setups. They were setups, kid. They were nothing." Well, you know what? Canelo's got to look in the mirror now, and if he was on juice for that fight, I'm going to assume he was on juice for other fights.
Wow.
He's got to look in the mirror now and say, "What am I? Who am I? Am I the 16-year-old Mexican kid that turned pro and won a world title and have all these Mexican fans behind me, and I follow a legacy of great, great, great fighters? Who am I? I want to find out who the freak I am. I'm going to go in there, and I'm going to find out who I am and show who I am. I'm going with Canelo."
Listen,
wow.
I can't wait for this fight now. Unfortunately, I'd like to do the rest of the show with you, but we got to go. Teddy, you're the best, brother. We appreciate it.
Great, Teddy. Thanks, man.
You guys are great. I care about you.
Thanks.
You got it. Now I want to punch you.
Let me tell you
I
what.
want to punch somebody.
There can be no more straight talk than him. He is fantastic.
Absolutely the best. They were setups. How great was that?
Pulling out Rocky quotes.
This is how great Teddy is. Clock integrity out the window when Teddy Atlas comes on the show.
That's fine by me, man. When
when
he's delivering like that.
Oh, chills.
What are you? What are you?
This was fantastic.
Wow.
Remember when you couldn't order a ride at the press of a button? Or get online without hearing this? Or get Domino's delivered to over 150,000 unexpected outdoor locations? Wait, what? Introducing Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get pizza delivered right to the beach, the quad, or the dog park. Not at home? Not a problem. Find a Domino's hotspot near you and get 2 medium 2-topping pizzas delivered for $5.99 each. 2-item minimum. Handmade pan pizzas will be extra asked for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary. Restrictions apply. Visit Domino's.com for details on Domino's hotspots.
He good now. We ain't gonna get it twisted. He's good, but saying this to me, is it supposed to bring fear to me or something?
No. There's always motivation you're looking for. I mean, it does and it doesn't. It's tricky right there.
This is Golic and Wingo.
Golic and Wingo presented by Odor Eaters. Fall is approaching. Time to put away the flip-flops. Get those boots out. So make sure you tackle foot odor before it starts with new Odor Eaters Charcoal Foot Scrub. Pick some up at Walmart, CVS, Kroger, or Dollar General. Start fresh, stay fresher with Odor Eaters.
All right, Golic and Wingo with you. Time for a little forward thinking as we look forward to the weekend, and that's brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit us at geico.com or call 1-800-947-AUTO. So let's do the deep dive right here into big games in both college and the NFL. Let's start with two of the – actually, I want to do three in the NFL.
Okay.
Let's start with the Patriots at the Jaguars. It is the rematch of the AFC Championship game. You know the Jags are cocky and confident. They had that 10-point lead in the second half of the AFC Championship game at Foxborough, and they let it slip away. Now they get the Pats at their place.
Yeah, and again, I love the Jacksonville defense, and I'd love to just lean to that defense, say they'll win there. No, I don't think you're going to get Leonard Fournette. I do like T.J. Yeldon, not like I don't like him, but Fournette is a hammer. There's no doubt about that. So missing him, I think, could hurt them. New England, they are so good at just finding a way. You have the whole Gronkowski, Jalen Ramsey thing working as well here. I think Gronk has another big game. There's really a big part of me wants to pick Jacksonville with that defense, but without Fournette and helping that offense run, I think I'm going to stick with New England in this one on the road.
I'm with you. If Fournette was there and if he's healthy, I think I would have gone with Jacksonville, but he's not and Gronk is. And remember, Gronk missed a large part of that AFC Championship game last year when he got concussed on that catch by Barry Church. So because the best weapon for the Patriots is there and arguably the best weapon isn't for Jacksonville, I'm also going with New England. All right, 0-1 Dallas hosting 0-1 Giants.
Again, no. The thing for me is who are the playmakers right now. And for Dallas, I know Zeke Elliott running out of the backfield, but that line is nicked up. They don't, to me, have any heavy hitters at the receiving core, and the Giants do. The Giants have Odell Beckham Jr. So on any play, while he wasn't able to do it against the Jacksonville defense, so he did have 11 catches for over 100, didn't have that breakaway. He can get one against that Dallas defense, and I think that will be the difference. Another week of that Dallas offensive line trying to gel a little more with Saquon so you don't get the 2-yard, 60-yard.
Right.
You'd like more consistency there. But I think overall the Giants, I think are a better team right now, so I'm picking 2 road teams right now. I'm going Giants over the Cowboys.
Well, road team with the Patriots is totally understandable. I get
Yeah,
that one.
it is. Not much
funny.
of a stretch.
Eli has done really well at AT&T Stadium at Jerry World over the years. But, you mentioned it, that Giants offensive line did not look good against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the Cowboys defensive line is the strength of their team right now. It's certainly the strength of their defense. I think they can get after him a little bit. I think Dak is a little offended. He shouldn't be, because that's the right thing to do, is what they said how to beat him. I'm going to go with the Cowboys.
You are?
I'm going to take
All
the
right,
Cowboys.
Well, if you look at the .com picks, I will too.
There you go. Good to know. Nicely done there. Covering all the bases he is. And then this one is the great unknown. Vikings at Packers, because we don't know what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers.
And I think even with Aaron Rodgers, listen, a knee sprain, I don't care if it's even just a grade 1. It takes more than a week to feel better.
Yes.
He hasn't practiced all week. Not that he needs it, but moving around, it's definitely going to take a little bit to loosen up, and it's going to get tight again and sore again. And that Minnesota defense can be stifling.
Yeah.
So I like that from that part of it. Now, the Green Bay defensive line, led by Mike Daniels on the inside, and that the Minnesota offensive line, a little shaky, I think, in the beginning here. That could make it interesting, but to me, I'll go with the Minnesota defense in this one, and I'll get them with a win over Green Bay.
Look, if Aaron Rodgers is playing, I'm going to say Aaron Rodgers has a way to lift them to a win at home, but we don't know, so I'm going to go with Minnesota, and then if Aaron Rodgers shows up, then I'm going to go with Green Bay.
And if you look at .com, I agree with my own pick.
There you go. That one, at least you worked. Okay, 2 in college football real quick.
Yeah.
Ohio State at TCU, but really neutral.
Yeah, I just say it's been like a 13-point spread. I just think... And you heard Gary Patterson say, don't let Ohio State off to a fast start. Certainly, while I agree with that, I still think Ohio State has the ability to roll through a game and eventually just outplay you. Yeah. And just keep going and keep the pressure on you the entire game. And I see that happening here. I see them maybe not getting out to that fast start, but eventually just rolling through and getting the win. Do they cover 13? It's a big number, but I think Ohio State does win this game.
And lastly, LSU goes to Auburn. Last year, LSU upset Auburn at Death Valley.
I love the LSU defense, the athleticism to go against Stidham and that Auburn offense. I think the difference could be Burrow needs to be better on a completion percentage. He's under 50% right now, so that worries me a little bit. I'm going to take Auburn at home.
By the way, I just forgot I didn't pick. I'll also take Ohio State.
Okay, there you go.
And I think I'm going to go with Auburn as well. I'm curious to see what Jared Stidham can do. So it's a huge weekend. We hope you enjoy the football on Saturday and Sunday, and we'll be back here Monday morning getting you set. Plus, we got the fight. They were setups all in on Teddy Atlas. Oh, hey, real quickly, you want to go play golf?
No.
Damn it.
I care about you.
When it comes to hiring, you don't have time to waste. You need help getting to your short list of qualified candidates fast. That's why you need Indeed.com. Post a job in minutes, set up screener questions, then zero in on